Most people are one mindset shift away from a completely different life. Not a new morning routine, not a new app, not an Andrew Tate style grind harder speech. One shift, learning to think in decades instead of days. Think about that for a second. Almost everything that's quietly running your life right now was built over years, not weeks. Your body, your bank account, your confidence, the kind of people you attract into your space, that's all the result of tiny choices that compounded while you were busy trying to fix today. There are really two identities you can live from. The first is the short-term firefighter. You wake up already behind, reacting to notifications, putting out emotional fires, chasing quick dopamine hits. One bad day ruins your mood. One unproductive afternoon makes you question your entire future. You obsess over productivity hacks, then feel like a failure when your life doesn't change in 48 hours. The second identity is the 10-year architect. Same world, same distractions, completely different aura. This person still has bad days, still gets anxious, still scrolls sometimes, but they see today as one brick in a decade-long project. They design their environment so good habits are automatic. They protect their energy. They move with a quiet self-respect because they know where they're going. Which one do you want to be? The firefighter who's always reacting, or the architect who's calmly building? If you think about it, most of your stress comes from living like everything has to be solved by tonight. Short-term thinking shows up everywhere. You open your phone for just 5 minutes and lose an hour. You start a new habit, don't see results in a week, and quit. You chase approval from people who won't even be in your life 3 years from now. You keep starting over every Monday, every New Year's, because you're judging yourself on days instead of decades. This video is about shifting that. The first layer of the decade mindset is changing your questions. Not how do I fix today, but who am I becoming over the next 10 years? And what would my future self genuinely thank me for? It's not about forcing yourself to be perfect. It's about making small, almost invisible choices that your 10 years from now self would be proud of. And in this guide, we're going to get very practical. We'll talk about how to design your environment so good habits are the default, how to build real confidence by keeping tiny promises to yourself, how to manage your emotions instead of being run by them, and how to choose the right people without guilt so your room, your feed, and your life aren't draining your energy. Now, I know 10 years sounds far away, but 10 years ago feels like yesterday. Some may say time flies. Really, you just weren't planning it. The next decade is coming whether you design it or not. Real respect comes from being the person who quietly plays the long game while everyone else is chasing quick hits. So from this moment forward, try on a new identity. You are someone who plays in decades. This isn't about hype. This isn't about becoming a robot of discipline. This is a blueprint. If you let it, it can quietly rewire the direction of your entire life. And it starts with one simple daily question. A question that takes 5 seconds, requires 0 willpower, and, if you actually ask it, can tilt your entire future over the next 10 years. I'll walk you through that question in the next section. The 10-year question. How to make today actually matter. So here's the question that quietly decides your future. If you keep living today on repeat for the next 10 years, where do you actually end up? Not where you hope you end up, where your real habits take you. Think about that for a second. Most people judge their future by their intentions. I'm going to start eating better. I'll save more once I make more. I'll fix my sleep after this busy season. But your future doesn't care about your plans. It cares about your patterns. The first layer of this question is brutal honesty. What are you actually doing most days on autopilot? Research suggests around 40% of what you do every day is habit, not conscious choice. If you think about it, that means almost half your life is being driven by settings you barely notice. So run the simulation. Your current breakfast, your late night snacks, the I'll start the gym next week loop. Put that on repeat for a decade. That's not just a few extra kilos. That's your energy, your confidence, your health span. Same with sleep. One more episode, one more scroll, midnight becomes 1 a.m. You survive on coffee and willpower. Repeat that for 10 years, and it's not just tired mornings, it's foggy thinking, worse decisions, and a shorter fuse with the people you actually care about. Money? If every paycheck it disappears into food delivery, random Amazon stuff, and trying to keep up with people flexing on Instagram, where do you land in 10 years? No buffer, no options, still saying yes to a job you hate because you have no runway. Relationships. If your current day on repeat is half-present texting while you scroll, avoiding hard conversations, staying with people who drain your aura because you're scared of being alone, project that forward. That doesn't magically become a safe, deep, respectful connection. It becomes more resentment and less self-respect. Work. If you keep doing the bare minimum, complaining in group chats and numbing out after work instead of learning even one tiny skill, where are you a decade from now? Probably in the same room with the same title, wondering why other people got lucky. But this isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Are your days compounding you toward the life you want or quietly away from it? Real respect comes from being honest enough to answer that without flinching. Here's how you use this in micro moments. Hand on the snooze button. If I repeat this for 10 years, who do I become? About to open social media for the 10th time today. If this is my default for a decade, what happens to my focus? About to skip the workout, say yes to something you don't want, or fire off that reactive text. Same question. Every time you ask it, you're practicing being the 10-year architect instead of the short-term firefighter. You stop living only in emotional emergencies and start living in intentional design. Quick exercise. Pick one area. Health, money, relationships, work. Describe your honest day on repeat in that area. No filters, no Andrew Tate grind set fantasy. Just what actually happens. Now, mentally drag that slider 10 years forward. If it stings, good. That sting is data, not a verdict. This isn't about shame. It's a dashboard warning light. Because the fastest way to change that 10-year trajectory isn't more motivation or screaming at yourself in the mirror. In the next section, I'll show you how to quietly reprogram the thing that's been programming you the whole time. Your environment. Why willpower fails. Your environment is beating you. Your environment has been winning a quiet war against you for years, and the dangerous part is it's been doing it so smoothly that you thought it was your personality. You say, I'm just not disciplined, I'm lazy, I have no focus. But look at your day honestly. You wake up to a phone that's already buzzing, in a room where the first thing you see is a screen, not sunlight. Your kitchen counter is a snack aisle. Your laptop opens to 12 tabs. You're not losing to a lack of character, you're losing a rigged game. Think about that for a second. This isn't about blaming society or turning you into a victim. It's about seeing the invisible hand that's been steering 95% of your choices. If you think about it, most of your day is not a dramatic moral decision. It's tiny defaults. The cue you see first, the path with less friction, the thing that's literally within arm's reach in your space. Phone on the desk while you work. Of course you check it every 3 minutes. Phone in another room, face down, on loud for emergencies. Suddenly you magically have focus. Junk food on the counter, you'll eat it at midnight, even if you swore you were done. Don't buy it. Don't bring it into the house, and somehow you become that person who has control around food. Same person, different room, a TV glowing in your bedroom. You scroll, you binge, you fall asleep with blue light in your eyes and anxiety in your chest. A book on the nightstand, lamp with warm light, phone charging in the hallway. You read 3 pages, your brain calms down, you sleep. People will say, wow, your discipline is crazy. No, your environment just stopped ambushing you. The first layer of most bad habits is simple. They're just the easiest option right now. The second layer of most good habits is brutal. They're the hardest option in your current setup. Respect that. Don't call yourself weak because Netflix autoplays and your workout requires shoes, a drive, and bright lights. This is where friction comes in. Add friction to the stuff that drains your energy. Remove friction from the stuff that builds your self-respect. It's not about waking up every day and giving yourself a motivational speech like a budget Andrew Tate in the mirror. It's about one calm decision that changes 100 future moments. Real respect comes from designing for your worst days, not just your best mood. Discipline isn't this heroic daily battle in your head. Real discipline is often a one-time choice. Move the app, cancel the subscription, rearrange the room, tell the friend who always drags you out that you're off the grid on weeknights. So the question isn't, what's wrong with me? The better question is, what about my environment makes this behavior the default? When you change that question, you take back control without screaming, without drama, without fake alpha energy. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. How one guy who had zero discipline went from gaming until 3 a.m. and doom scrolling at work to lifting, reading, and sleeping on time without a single motivation hack, just by changing one thing in his environment. And when you hear what it was, you're going to realize how close you already are. Designing your space. Make good habits the default. Here's the thing that flipped everything for him, and it will for you too. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. Think about that for a second. Your space is either quietly pulling you forward or quietly dragging you back every hour you're in it. So instead of asking, why am I not disciplined? Start asking, what is this room training me to do? Go room by room, bedroom, kitchen, workspace, living area. Walk into your bedroom and be brutally honest. Does this place encourage sleep or scrolling? Is the first thing you see your phone and a glowing laptop, or a book and a dim lamp that signals silence and rest? Then the kitchen. Does your counter say, order food, you're tired, or cooking is easy here? If you think about it, your environment already has a script. Chips at eye level, energy drink by the sink, Uber Eats notifications on your phone, that's a script. You don't need more confidence, you need a different script. Start rewriting it with visual cues. Lay your workout clothes where your phone usually lives. Keep a big water bottle on the desk, so drinking isn't a decision, it's just there. Put a book right where you normally sit to doom scroll. Real respect comes from setting up your space so the version of you with self-respect is the default, not the exception. Now, the one move closer rule. This is where people think discipline is magic, but it's just design. You set up your environment so the first step of the habit is already done. Gym bag packed by the door, cutting board and pan out on the counter, journal open on your pillow with a pen on top. When the first move is ready, your brain has way less resistance. Some may say that's lazy. It's actually smart control of your future energy. And it's not only about adding good cues. You remove temptations so you don't have to be strong all day. Don't store junk food where you can see it. Don't keep your phone within arm's reach when you're trying to work. This isn't about proving you can stare down a family-sized bag of chips with monk-like aura. It's about not putting the chips there in the first place. Create a focus corner with no TV, no console, no random tabs, just your laptop, a notepad, maybe noise-cancelling headphones. Build a creativity station where your sketchbook, guitar, or camera is always out and ready, not buried in a closet. Turn your bedroom into a sleep sanctuary by getting screens out, dimming lights, and letting that quiet, heavier energy hit you when you walk in. It's not about aesthetics or Pinterest-worthy setups. The first layer of design is function. Does this space make the next right action easier or harder? The second layer of design is identity. Does this room reflect the person you're trying to become or the person you're trying to outgrow? So here's your action challenge. Today, pick one room, just one. Make 3 tiny changes that push your desired habit closer than your current default. Move the snacks, lay out the clothes, set the book on the pillow. You'll feel your confidence shift because your environment is finally on your side. And remember, this is only half the story. Your physical space is powerful, but your digital environment might be even more dangerous and more fixable. In the next part, I'll show you how to declutter your feeds, rewire your notifications, and basically uninstall the Andrew Tate style chaos from your phone so your mind can actually breathe. Rewiring your digital world. Take back your attention. Your phone is not neutral. Every icon, every color, every notification badge is a tiny salesperson trying to pull you back into the app. If you don't design that environment on purpose, someone in Silicon Valley already did it for you, and they did not have your 10-year self in mind. Think about that for a second. The smartest people in the world are paid insane money to keep you scrolling for just 5 more minutes. Infinite scroll removes the stopping points. Algorithmic feeds learn exactly what spikes your dopamine. Notifications drip little hits of maybe something exciting happened. And then you wonder why long-term goals feel boring and far away compared to one more real. This isn't about you being weak. It's about you trying to do deep, meaningful work in a digital casino. You sit down to focus, your phone lights up, and instantly your brain switches from long-term thinking to short-term reaction. That constant context switching destroys your ability to sit in silence, hold a thought, and actually feel in control of your own mind. So you need attention architecture. Treat your phone and laptop like a workspace you intentionally set up, not a junk drawer where every random app lives on the front page. The first layer of this is simple. Reduce the noise. Turn off all non-essential notifications, likes, follows, suggested for you, random news alerts. If someone actually needs you, they'll call, text, or email. Everything else is just strangers renting space in your head for free. Then, move the worst offenders. Social media, short-form video, games, take them off your home screen. Make them live in a folder on the 2nd or 3rd page so you have to consciously go find them instead of tapping on autopilot. If you think about it, even 2 extra swipes can be enough friction to wake you up. Next, flip your phone to grayscale. It sounds silly, but stripping away the bright colors kills a lot of the casino aura. Your feed instantly feels more boring, which is perfect. Boring makes it easier to put the phone down and return to whatever actually builds your confidence and self-respect. On top of that, set app limits for the stuff that eats your life. 30 minutes for short-form content, maybe an hour total for all social. When the limit pops up, treat it like a boundary with yourself. Real respect comes from keeping those tiny promises, even when no one is watching. Now, let's go deeper and build focus modes. One mode for deep work. Only messages from key people, no social apps, no email. Another mode for rest, meditation, music, reading, maybe one low stimulation game. And a mode for social connection, calls, voice notes, maybe Instagram DMs if you're being intentional. Different modes, different allowed apps, different rules. You are telling your brain, this is the energy we're in right now. Then curate the inputs themselves. Unfollow or mute accounts that constantly trigger comparison, outrage, or mindless scrolling. You don't need another millionaire hustle montage to feel like trash. Follow people and ideas your 10-year self would be proud to have in your mental room. Creators who teach, challenge, or calm you instead of frying your nervous system. Because every scroll is a vote. Every video, every tweet, every rant you consume is shaping the voice in your head. Your inputs become your internal dialogue. Some may say it's just entertainment, but your brain doesn't treat it like just anything. It treats it like training data. So use a simple rule: default to off. Nothing gets your attention by default. You choose which apps can notify you, which accounts you see, which platforms you even keep installed. That's real control. That's you taking back the steering wheel instead of being dragged around by whatever pops up next. And here's the twist. Even if you master this, you're still missing the most powerful environment of all. Because beyond your room, beyond your phone, there's one thing that quietly decides your next decade more than any app ever could: the people you let close. In the next part, we'll talk about your social circle, the friends, co-workers, and its complicated situations that either protect your focus or slowly destroy it. The people around you, your hidden life script. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Your life already has a script, and a lot of it was written by the people you sit next to. Your social circle is basically a living, breathing instruction manual for what's normal for you. Think about that for a second. If everyone around you treats being tired, broke, and constantly stressed as just how life is, that becomes your baseline. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. This isn't about blaming your friends or family. It's about finally seeing the water you've been swimming in so you can decide if it actually fits the life you want 10 years from now. People love to say, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Some may say that's cliche, but the first layer of that idea is actually deeper. You don't just become like the people, you become like the behaviors they normalize. If your group's default is scrolling, complaining, and will start next week, your brain quietly files that as acceptable. Look at 2 different rooms. In the first, every break at work turns into a complaint circle. The boss is trash, the pay is trash, the world is trash. You walk out drained, but also kind of validated. In the second room, people still vent, but they pivot fast. Okay, what can we control? What's the move? Same problems, totally different energy, totally different script for your confidence and self-respect. Or think about ambition. In one circle you say, I'm thinking about starting a channel, and they laugh, make a TikTok joke, or hit you with, who do you think you are, Mr. Beast? In another, you say the same thing and they start asking, cool, what's your first video? Need help with a thumbnail? One room trains you to hide your goals. The other trains you to take yourself seriously. And it's not just the obvious reactions. It's the eye rolls when you say you're leaving early to sleep. The little jokes when you skip drinks to save money. The silence when you share something you're proud of. If you think about it, those tiny signals are like micro-approval or micro-rejection. Over time, they teach you which parts of you are allowed in that space. Here's the wild part. Your future self is already sitting in certain rooms. The version of you who thinks in decades, who has real control over their time, who isn't ruled by notifications, that person already exists somewhere, surrounded by people who see that as normal. The question is, are you willing to leave some old rooms to go find them? That's where it gets hard, because outgrowing environments feels like betrayal. You worry people will think you're arrogant or too good for them. You feel guilty for wanting more. Real respect comes from being honest about that tension instead of pretending it doesn't exist. It's not about deciding you're better than anyone. It's about accepting that you are responsible for the next decade of your life, even if that makes some people uncomfortable. You can love people and still limit their access to your time, your focus, your aura. You can care about them without letting their script dictate your future. In the next sections, we're going to get very practical. How to choose the right people, how to set boundaries without turning into some Andrew Tate parody, and how to say no without drowning in guilt so you can protect your long-term path. And I'll give you one simple sentence you can say to someone that instantly reveals whether they're good for your growth or quietly holding you back. Choosing the right people. A simple litmus test. So here's that sentence I promised you. It's simple, but it's a filter. I'm really trying to take the next 5 to 10 years of my life seriously. That's it. You drop that into a conversation and then you shut up. You let the silence do the work. Think about that for a second. Their reaction is not random. It's a live preview of the role they're going to play in your story. If you think about it, you'll usually see one of 3 responses. The first response is genuine support. Their eyes light up a bit, they lean in, they get curious. Oh yeah? What are you thinking about changing? They respect the fact that you even care about your future. The second response is passive dismissal. A little smirk, a shrug, quick joke, and then they change the subject back to gossip or memes. The third response is active sabotage or mockery. They roll their eyes, make you feel dramatic, or hit you with, "Bro, relax, you're overthinking life." The first layer of this is obvious. Supporters are good, saboteurs are bad. But there's a second layer of meaning. Supporters don't just say nice, they ask questions, they offer space, they match your seriousness without making it weird. Dismissers aren't evil, but they signal, I'm not going to hold you to a higher standard. Saboteurs attack your confidence. They make you feel stupid for caring, like self-respect is cringe. Some may say they're just joking, but notice how you shrink a little every time. This isn't about judging people from a pedestal, it's about noticing your energy. After you hang out, do you feel more clear, more focused, a bit more in control of your life? Or do you walk away feeling foggy, smaller, low-key ashamed for wanting more? Real respect comes from paying attention to that emotional aftertaste. Your nervous system is collecting data long before your brain writes a story. So what do the right people actually look like in real life? Not in some Instagram quote. They respect your boundaries without turning it into drama. They celebrate your growth instead of making subtle digs when you improve your habits, your body, your money, your aura. They tell you the truth kindly, even when it risks your approval. And most importantly, they don't need you to stay small so they can feel comfortable in the room. Now, obviously, no one nails this every day. You don't need perfect saints around you. It's not about flawless people. It's about net positive influence over years. Just like your habits, your relationships compound. A slightly supportive friend, repeated hundreds of times, changes your life. A slightly undermining friend, repeated hundreds of times, also changes your life. So here's a quick exercise. In your head, list the 5 people you talk to or text the most. For each one, ask, for my long-term growth, are they mostly +1, 0, or -1? +1 means you usually leave with more clarity and confidence. 0 means neutral, fun, but not really aligned with where you're going. -1 means you regularly leave drained, confused, or doubting yourself. You don't have to cut everyone off tomorrow and move to a mountain. Awareness is the first step. You just start shifting your time and energy, a little more toward the +1s, a little less with the -1s. And to do that, you're going to need one more skill, saying no without guilt. In the next section, I'll give you a simple framework so you can set boundaries calmly and confidently without turning into a discount Andrew Tate or a people-pleasing doormat. Saying no without guilt. The boundary blueprint. Saying no is one of those skills everyone intellectually agrees they need, but when it's actually time to say it, your chest tightens, your brain starts negotiating, and suddenly you've agreed to 3 extra shifts, a weekend trip you don't want, and helping your cousin move again. You know you need boundaries, but your nervous system has been trained to believe that no equals rejection, conflict, or losing approval. Think about that for a second. You're trading years of your future time and energy just to avoid 10 seconds of awkwardness in the room right now. So let's reframe this. This isn't about becoming cold or selfish. It's not about rejecting people. It's about protecting the future you're responsible for building. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you are quietly saying no to sleep, to the gym, to your side project, to your own self-respect. If you think about it, every yes is already a no. You're just finally being honest about the trade-off. The first layer of boundaries is a simple 3-part script. That's it. No TED Talk, no 14-point explanation. Part 1, appreciation. Part 2, a clear no. Part 3, a brief reason that lines up with your priorities. For example, I really appreciate the invite. I'm going to pass this time because I'm protecting my weekends for rest and projects right now. Calm tone, then silence. Let the aura of that sentence breathe. Another one. Thanks for thinking of me. I can't take this on because I'm focused on my main deadlines this month. Or, I respect what you're doing, but I'm not available for that. I'm keeping my evenings tech-free to reset my brain. Notice the pattern. Appreciation, clear no, short reason tied to your long-term control. Most people mess this up by over-explaining. They write a whole essay, stack 5 excuses, and then wonder why the other person keeps pushing. Over-explaining sounds uncertain, and uncertainty invites negotiation. Clarity is kindness. A clean no is easier for people to accept than a shaky, half-open door. Now, the guilt. Some may say, if I feel this bad, I must be doing something wrong. Not true. Guilt often just means you're breaking an old pattern where you trained everyone that you're always available. Your body is reacting to change, not to danger. Real respect comes from holding that line even while your stomach does backflips for a bit. So here's your challenge. This week, pick one low-stakes situation and run the script. Maybe it's a group hang you don't care about, an extra task at work, or a random favor. Use the 3 parts, then stop talking. Watch what happens. Spoiler, the world doesn't end, your life doesn't collapse, and your confidence quietly goes up 1 notch. In the next part, we'll go deeper into emotional regulation because people will sometimes push back. The second layer of boundaries is staying calm when that happens, managing your emotions so you respond with control instead of reacting from panic. Responding versus reacting. The 5-second gap. So let's zoom into the exact moment everything usually goes wrong. The half-second between feeling something and doing something. That tiny slice of time is where you either keep your self-respect or you send that I kind of hate myself for this text. Reacting is fast, automatic, emotional. Someone pokes your insecurity and you fire back, slam your laptop, or spiral on your phone for 3 hours. Responding is slower, intentional, guided by your values and your long-term goals. Same trigger, completely different energy in the room. If you think about it, your emotions are just data. They're notifications, not commands. Anger says, hey, a boundary might be crossed. Anxiety says, something here feels uncertain. Jealousy says, you want something like that too. The problem is, you treat those signals like orders. I'm angry, so I must attack. I'm anxious, so I must escape. This isn't about becoming a robot or pretending you don't care. It's about creating just enough space so you're in control of what you do next. Real respect comes from that gap. People feel it when you don't let every mood yank you around. So here's the tool, the 5-second gap. When you feel triggered, you do nothing externally for 5 slow breaths. No typing, no talking, no deciding. You just breathe in for 4, out for 4, 5 times. It sounds stupidly simple. But remember, even one night of bad sleep can wreck your decision making like you're slightly drunk. You really think your flooded brain is making wise, decade-level choices in the heat of the moment? Let's walk it. You get a critical text from a friend. Wow, thanks for bailing again. Classic you. Instant reaction mode? You start hammering your screen. You know what? Maybe if you weren't so dramatic. Send. Now you're in a full argument. Screenshots flying. Andrew Tate clips getting quoted in the group chat for no reason. Same text, but you use the 5-second gap. Phone buzzes, your chest tightens, you feel that hit of shame. Instead of typing, you literally put the phone face down. 5 slow breaths. Then you ask yourself one question. What would my 10-year self want me to do right now? Think about that for a second. Your future self doesn't care about winning this one text battle. They care about the relationship, your peace, your time. So maybe you respond, "Hey, that stung. Can we talk later? I don't want to fight over text." Same emotion, but now you're steering it. Most of your real regrets come from moments where there was no gap, where emotion and action were fused together. The drunk text, the rage quit, the "I'm done" message you didn't actually mean. Your future self rarely thanks you for what you did in the heat of the moment. They thank you for the times you paused. The first layer of this skill is just catching yourself once a day and inserting that tiny pause. You will still react sometimes. You're human. The goal is to reduce the damage and slowly increase the number of moments where you choose your response. In the next part, we're going deeper into the emotions themselves. So you're not just hitting pause, you're actually decoding what you feel and using it as fuel instead of letting it run the show. Decoding your emotions, signals, not enemies. So here's the twist. Your emotions are not the enemy. The anger, the anxiety, the random wave of sadness that hits you at 11:37 p.m. on a Tuesday, those aren't glitches, those are signals. Think about that for a second. Most people are trained to treat emotions like a fire alarm that's annoying instead of like a warning that something's actually burning. You feel anger, you scroll. You feel anxiety, you binge Netflix. You feel sadness, you joke it away or slap on fake confidence. This isn't about judging yourself for that. It's about finally seeing what that pattern is costing you. Emotions are like the dashboard lights in your car. The light isn't the problem. The light is pointing to the problem. When your fuel light comes on, you don't smash the dashboard and say, "Why are you like this?" You go get gas. But with your inner dashboard, you try to stay in control by ignoring it, and then wonder why your energy and your aura feel off in every room you walk into. So here's a simple, free question check-in. No therapy degree, no spiritual retreat, no Andrew Tate rant required. Question 1, what am I feeling? Not "I'm fine." Actually label it. Angry, anxious, lonely, embarrassed, jealous. The first layer of control is simply naming it. Studies show that when you put words to a feeling, it literally reduces the intensity. You move it from chaos to something you can work with. Question 2, what might this be trying to tell me? Anger often signals a crossed boundary or some kind of injustice. Someone talked over you, used you, disrespected your time. Anxiety, that's usually uncertainty or misalignment. You're not clear on what happens next, or you know deep down you're living out of sync with your values. Sadness is usually about loss or unmet needs. You lost a person, a dream, a version of yourself, or you've been starving for rest, for connection, for real respect. Question 3. What do I actually need right now? Not what do I want to escape into. Need. Maybe you need a hard conversation. Maybe you need a nap. Maybe you need to say no and protect your space. Real respect comes from acting on those needs instead of chasing approval and pretending you're a robot. If you think about it, ignoring emotions never makes them disappear. They just leak out sideways. Snapping at people you care about, stress eating, doom scrolling, saying yes when every cell in your body wants to say no. You look chill on the surface, but inside you're in a constant fight with yourself. This is where journaling or voice notes become a quiet superpower. You grab your phone, open a note, and talk for 3 minutes, or you dump a messy page in a notebook. That's it. You're taking all that swirl from your head, putting it into a clear container, and creating just enough distance to respond instead of react. It's not about writing something poetic, it's about creating space between you and the feeling. And here's why this matters for your 10-year self. If you don't learn to decode your emotions, you'll accidentally build an entire life around avoiding certain feelings instead of building a life around what actually matters to you. You'll pick jobs, relationships, even hobbies based on what hurts less instead of what lights me up. In the next part, we're going to turn this emotional awareness into real confidence by using it to keep small, specific promises to yourself. That's where self-respect stops being an idea and starts becoming your default setting. Real confidence, it's built, not found. So let's talk about confidence, because this is where most people get it completely backwards. You don't find confidence like some lost AirPod under your bed. You build it, brick by brick, promise by promise. Some may say, well, I'm just not a confident person, as if it's a personality type, like being an introvert or having a loud laugh. But if you think about it, you weren't born scared to speak up in a room, or afraid to make eye contact, or terrified to post something online without 10 filters of approval. That stuff was learned, which means it can be unlearned. Real confidence is actually pretty quiet. It's not the Andrew Tate, scream into a mic, pound your chest energy. It's the calm belief that when you say you'll do something, you'll at least seriously try. That's self-trust. That's the kind of confidence that changes how you walk into a space, how you hold silence, how much control you feel over your own life. Think about that for a second. If you had a friend who constantly cancelled on you, showed up late, bailed on plans, forgot every promise, would you fully trust them? Of course not. You'd adjust your expectations down. You'd stop relying on them. Yet a lot of people do this exact thing to themselves every single day. I'll wake up early, snooze. I'll go to the gym, scroll. I'll study tonight, Netflix. Every time you do that, you're not just missing a habit, you're teaching your brain, we don't mean what we say. And then you wonder why your confidence disappears the moment things get hard, or why you feel small when you walk into a room full of people. This isn't about hyping yourself up with fake affirmations in the mirror. It's not about screaming, I'm a beast, and then still not doing the thing. Confidence is less about the noise you make and more about the track record you have with yourself. The first layer of self-respect comes from knowing deep down, when I say I'll do something, I usually follow through. The second layer of confidence is evidence. Promise to action, to evidence to confidence. That loop works the same for everyone. Introvert, extrovert, socially anxious, super outgoing, doesn't matter. The mechanism is identical. You keep a promise, your brain logs it, your aura shifts a little. You stand a bit straighter. You need less approval from people because you're starting to respect yourself. And here's the good news. You don't rebuild that track record with huge dramatic goals. You rebuild it with small winnable promises you actually keep. 1 page read. 1 walk without your phone, one honest conversation you've been avoiding. Remember a time you followed through on something hard, a workout streak, an exam, a project. Notice how your confidence spiked afterward? That's the feeling we're going to engineer on purpose. In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to design those tiny promises so they're almost impossible to fail, and how to stack them until confidence stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like your new baseline. Small promises, big shift, the self-trust formula. So let's make this stupidly practical. If the last section was the theory of self-respect, this is where you start earning it back in real time. One tiny promise at a time. Here's the rule. Make it so small it's embarrassing to skip. That's the bar. Not impressive, not grind set, embarrassing to skip. If you think about it, that's how you'd rebuild trust with a friend you disappointed. You wouldn't promise them a world tour, you'd show up for one coffee. A good small promise has a simple formula. It's specific, tiny, time-bound, and tied to the identity you're building over the next decade. Not, I'll be healthier, but after I brush my teeth at night, I'll do one push-up. Not, I'll read more, but I'll read for 5 minutes before bed, phone in another room. Think about that for a second. You're not just doing tasks, you're casting votes for your future self. You want to be a reflective, emotionally aware person? 2 minutes of journaling in the morning. Literally set a timer, write one page about how you feel, and close the notebook. You want to stop being the flaky friend who ghosts people? On honest text instead of disappearing. Hey, I've been overwhelmed. I'm not ignoring you. That's a micro promise that changes your aura in other people's minds. This isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. 5 minutes a day for 30 days will beat one heroic 2-hour session followed by 3 weeks of nothing. Some may say they work better in big bursts, but that's usually just a nice way of saying, I break my own promises and then hide behind chaos. Real respect comes from quiet, boring follow-through. Here's the crazy part. Your brain doesn't actually care how big the action is. It cares whether you did what you said you'd do. One push-up still registers as, we said we'd move and we moved. Over time, that feeling of being someone who follows through is what builds real confidence, not the highlight reel, the daily receipts. To keep your brain on your side, track it. Nothing fancy. A calendar on the wall with a big X for each day you keep the promise. A notes app checklist. A habit app if you like visuals. You want a growing streak that stares at you from the corner of your room and says, don't break me today. Now, perfectionism is going to try to hijack this. You'll miss a day and your brain will scream, see, you always ruin it. That's a lie. Missing a day doesn't break self-trust. Lying to yourself about it does. The first layer of repair is noticing, owning it. Yeah, I skipped yesterday. And restarting today without the dramatic self-hate monologue. So here's your action step. Right now, pick one micro promise that your 10-year self would be proud of. Not 10 habits. 1. Make it so small it's slightly ridiculous. Commit to 7 days and write it down where you'll see it. Because in the next section, we're going to zoom out from the habit to the identity and upgrade the entire story you tell yourself about who you are. Upgrading your identity from I'm just not that person to I'm becoming. So that tiny promise you just picked, that's not just a habit, that's an identity upgrade in disguise. Because your behavior will always chase the story you believe about who you are. Think about that for a second. You don't just go to the gym. You act like someone who works out. You don't just check your bank account. You act like someone who's bad with money or someone who's on top of it. Behavior follows identity. If you think about it, your brain is obsessed with staying consistent with whatever label you've quietly slapped on yourself. And most people's labels are brutal. I'm lazy. I'm not a morning person. I'm bad with money. I'm just emotional. You say it as a joke, but your nervous system hears it as a rule. So when the alarm goes off, your brain goes, right, we're not a morning person, and you hit snooze, not because you're weak, but because you're loyal to the wrong identity. This isn't about lying to yourself or doing some cheesy Andrew Tate mirror affirmations. The first layer of identity work is simple. Those labels are stories, not facts. They're just descriptions of past patterns, not your destiny. You were bad with money when you didn't track anything. You were lazy when your environment was one big trap. That's history, not a life sentence. So we use a bridge. The phrase is, I'm becoming the kind of person who, it's small, but it changes everything. I'm becoming the kind of person who moves my body every day. I'm becoming the kind of person who respects my time. I'm becoming the kind of person who pauses before reacting. You're not claiming perfection, you're claiming direction. Now connect it back to those micro promises. Every small promise you keep is a vote for this new identity. One walk after dinner? Vote. One time you check your budget instead of ignoring it? Vote. You don't need 100% of the votes. Democracy still works with 55%. You just need a consistent majority over time, and your confidence starts to match this new story. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. Their environment is still loyal to the old identity. Real respect comes from aligning your space with your story. Ask yourself, does my room look like it belongs to the person I'm becoming? Does my phone, my apps, my calendar match that aura? Or are they built for someone who's distracted, broke, and exhausted? This might sting a bit, but open your phone and scroll your home screen. Is this the phone of someone who's calm and in control, or someone chasing constant approval? Same with your calendar. Is there protected silence for deep work, or just chaos and other people's priorities? Quick exercise. Grab a notebook. Write free. I'm becoming the kind of person who... Statements that actually matter for your next decade. Then, under each, write one tiny daily action that backs it up. 1. I'm becoming the kind of person who takes my health seriously. Arrow drink water before coffee. Who manages money well. Arrow open my budget app for 2 minutes. Who responds instead of reacts. Arrow 1 30-second pause before I answer a triggering text. At the end of the day, this is how you rebuild your life. Identity, backed by tiny receipts. And in the next section, we're going to pull all of this together. Your decade vision, your environment, your emotions, your confidence into one simple daily system you can actually run, even on your worst days. Your daily system. A 15-minute check-in that compounds for years. So let's make this real, because none of this matters if it just lives in your head as nice ideas, while your actual day is still chaos driven by notifications and other people's priorities. Big life change doesn't come from one perfect week where you're on your grind and then disappear. It comes from small kind of boring systems that you repeat when you're tired, annoyed, or not in the mood. Think about that for a second. The people you respect don't look powerful because they had one motivated Monday. They have an aura of control because their boring habits quietly run in the background. So here's the system. 15 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes to review, 5 minutes to plan, 5 minutes to align with your 10-year self. You can run this at night, during a lunch break, whenever there's a bit of silence. Some may say they don't have time, but you absolutely have 15 minutes. You just gave TikTok 45. First layer of the check-in, review. You ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1. Did I keep my small promise today? Not, was I perfect? Just, did I do the tiny thing I said I'd do? 2. Where did I react instead of respond? Maybe you snapped at a coworker, doom scrolled after a text, or let your boss rent space in your head all evening. 3. What did my environment make easy or hard today? Was the gym bag packed or buried? Was your phone on your desk or in another room? Second layer of the check-in, plan. Here you choose or confirm tomorrow's tiny promise. One push-up, one page, one honest conversation. It's not about proving your discipline, it's about stacking evidence of self-respect. Then you tweak your environment for one specific habit. Shoes by the door, junk food out of the house, social apps off the home screen. Finally, you pre-commit to one boundary you'll hold. No work email after 8. I leave the party at 11. I don't explain myself twice. Real respect comes from actually keeping that line when it's uncomfortable. Then the alignment piece. 1 minute. Close your eyes and picture your 10-year self walking into the room. Not some Andrew Tate highlight reel, just you, with more calm, more confidence, more control. If you think about it, research shows we massively underestimate how different we'll be in a decade. So you write one sentence, tomorrow, the person I'm becoming would, and you finish it with a concrete action. Send the application, go to bed at 11, put the phone in another room. This isn't about a perfect streak. It's about staying in conversation with your life instead of running on autopilot. You'll miss days. Fine. Start messy. Use a scrap of paper, your notes app, the back of a receipt, whatever breaks the silence between you and your future. Because if you think about it, this is how you quietly steer an entire decade, 15 minutes at a time, course correcting before you drift too far. And in the next section, we're going to zoom out and connect this tiny daily system to something much bigger, your future self, your relationships, and why these boring 15 minutes might be the most important part of your entire life plan. A message from your future self. Why this decade starts today. So let's zoom out. I want you to do a quick experiment with me. Close your eyes for a second if you can, or at least soften your focus. Imagine it's 10 years from now. You're in a different room, a different space, maybe a different country, and you're watching a replay of this exact moment, this version of you, sitting here, listening. Future you knows how the story turned out. They know which tiny choices you made after this video ended, and there are two very different timelines playing out. In the first one, you nod along, maybe you even feel a little spike of motivation, and then nothing really changes. The phone stays next to the bed. The same people drain your energy. You keep saying yes when you want to say no. Emotions still run the show. There's no pause, just reaction. 10 years go by and life is fine, but there's this quiet ache, like you never really took control. In the second timeline, almost nothing looks dramatic from the outside. No Andrew Tate montage, no I woke up at 4 a.m. and became a billionaire story. You just start making small boring shifts. You clean your desk so your brain has room to think. You move the apps that hijack your attention off your home screen. You set one boundary with one person. You give yourself a 5-second silence before you reply when you're angry. You keep one tiny promise a day. Think about that for a second. Same job, same city, same basic life. But over 10 years, those micro adjustments compound. Better sleep means better decisions. Better decisions mean better opportunities. The people around you change. Fewer energy vampires, more people who actually respect your time. Your health is better, your relationships are deeper, your self-respect is higher because you've proved to yourself 1,000 times that your word means something. If you think about it, the difference between those futures isn't one massive cinematic decision. It's not about quitting everything and moving to a cabin tomorrow. The first layer of real change is just 1,000 tiny votes for the person you're becoming. One drawer cleaned, one notification turned off, one walk without headphones, one honest I can't do that instead of a fake yes. This isn't about becoming someone who just watches self-improvement content and feels inspired for an hour. Real respect comes from being the kind of person who designs their life on purpose, who treats their environment, their time, and their attention like they actually matter. So here's your first concrete commitment. Right now, pick one thing from this opening section and lock it in for the next 7 days. Either change one part of your physical environment, do a simple digital declutter, set one clear boundary, or make one tiny daily promise you will not break. Write it down, say it out loud. That's your 7-day contract with future you. And yeah, resistance is going to show up. Old stories like, I never stick to anything, or what's the point, will try to drag you back. Some may say you should wait until you feel ready, until life calms down, until the perfect system appears. No, the point is to begin anyway, as the person you're practicing becoming, not the one you're trying to escape. From here, we're going to go much deeper. We'll break down each area, environment, boundaries, emotions, systems, and I'll give you tools to stay consistent when the motivation dip hits in week 2. But before that, there's something you need to see. Because most people don't waste a decade on purpose. They fall into a few specific long-term thinking traps they don't even notice. In the next part, I'm going to walk you through those traps one by one and how to avoid the kind of quiet, invisible mistakes that only show up when it's already too late to get those 10 years back. The confidence loop. Why tiny promises matter more than big goals. So before we talk about 10-year plans and big visions, we need to talk about something way less sexy. Tiny promises. Because confidence isn't this loud, Andrew Tate-style aura where you walk into a room and dominate the space. Real respect comes from something much quieter, self-trust. Confidence is simply the belief. When I say I'll do something, I do it. That's it. Not when you feel motivated, not when other people are watching. When you say it, you follow through. Think about that for a second. There's a loop running in the background of your life. Promise to action, to proof, to identity shift, to stronger promise. You tell yourself, I'll write for 5 minutes. You actually do it. That action becomes proof. Your brain goes, oh, we're the kind of person who writes. Your identity shifts a little. Next time, you can promise 10 minutes without that heavy resistance. If you think about it, this is the same loop that built every skill you respect in other people. The problem is, most people are running the loop in reverse. You promise big. New year, new me, I'm hitting the gym 6 days a week, cold showers, 5 a.m. grind. Then you don't. No action, no proof. Your identity quietly updates to, yeah, I talk a lot, but I don't really follow through. Now every new goal feels heavier because you don't believe yourself anymore. That's fake confidence versus earned confidence. Fake confidence is talk, image, external praise. It's flexing online, chasing approval, trying to control how people see you. Earned confidence is boring. Receipts from your own behavior when nobody's in the room. This isn't about posting your morning routine. It's about the moment at 11:30 p.m. where you said you'd be in bed by midnight and you either close the app or you scroll for another hour in silence. Every broken promise to yourself is like a tiny withdrawal from your identity. You don't get a notification. There's no dramatic breakdown, just a slow leak in self-respect. After a few years of that, even a small goal like go for a walk feels weirdly heavy because your body remembers all the times you said tomorrow and didn't mean it. So we flip it. We start with absurdly small promises. 1 push-up a day, 5 minutes of writing, 1 honest conversation per week where you say what you actually think instead of just nodding for approval. The first layer of rebuilding your life is not a perfect system. It's one daily non-negotiable that is so small, it's almost embarrassing to fail. And then not failing. Some may say, that's too small to matter. But over 10 years, those tiny promises compound into a completely different identity. One push-up becomes a workout habit. 5 minutes of writing becomes a book. One honest conversation a week becomes a whole new circle of people and a different energy in every space you walk into. This next part of the video is where we get really practical. We're going to get specific about what promises to make, how to design your environment so you actually keep them, and what to do on the days you absolutely do not feel like it, because that's where the identity shift really locks in. Micro promises, the 5-minute rule that rewires your brain. So here's the simple rule that quietly rewires your life. 5 minutes, no matter what. Not when you feel like it, not when the stars align. Every day, you buy just 5 minutes of effort. Think about that for a second. Your brain hates big, vague commitments. I'm gonna get shredded this year. I'll write my book. Your nervous system hears that and goes, cool story, absolutely not, and hits you with anxiety, scrolling, and suddenly you're deep in a 3-hour Andrew Tate reaction rabbit hole. But 5 minutes? That feels safe, low threat. Your brain can relax because it's not about risking total failure. It's about a tiny, contained action you can walk into without panic. The first layer of this is practical. 5 minutes lowers the friction so much that skipping starts to feel sillier than doing it. The second layer of it is psychological. You're training your identity. Every time you keep a micro promise, you send a signal to yourself. When I say I'll show up, I do. Real respect comes from that, from you being someone you can rely on in the silence of your own room. Here's the real twist though. It's not about the 5 minutes. 5 minutes of push-ups won't turn you into an athlete. 5 minutes of reading won't make you a genius. The goal is not results yet. The goal is proof. Proof that you show up when you say you will. Once that identity locks in, scaling up becomes easy. Skipping becomes what feels weird. And what usually happens, you start your 5 minutes and you keep going. You promise yourself 5 minutes of walking and 20 minutes later, you're still moving because the hardest part was starting. You open your language app for just 5 minutes and suddenly you've done 3 lessons. But that extra time is a bonus, not the promise. The promise is small and sacred. You never raise the minimum just because you had a good day. You can run this everywhere. Fitness, 5 minutes of movement, even if it's just stretching on the floor. Learning, 5 minutes of reading or notes. Side projects, 5 minutes opening the file, fixing one line, sketching one idea. Relationships, 5 minutes to send one thoughtful message or sit with someone without your phone, fully present in the space. Emotional regulation, 5 minutes of breathing, journaling, or just staring out the window in silence instead of reacting. Some may say, come on, 5 minutes won't change my life. If you think about it, neither does one workout, one argument, or one missed night of sleep. But over 10 years, those tiny repetitions compound into a different body, a different aura, a different level of control. 5 minutes a day is 1,825 micro reps of self-respect in a decade. That's a different identity.